This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Wednesday, Ceviche Wednesday, May 15th, and today's pod is the best one yet. This is a TBOY.
We're serving up the top 3 pop business news stories you need to know today.
But first, Yetis, open up your latest issue of Vanity Fair magazine, baby.
This week's edition talks about fashion, parties, people, and TBOY.
Yeah, because Vanity Fair just ran an article on podcasting, and the best one yet is in it.
We were quoted twice for this Vanity Fair article.
I mean, Jack, TBOY, we've never looked so glam. You're glowing over there, man.
Yeah, I'm going to expense my outfit that I was wearing during the interview.
You know, Jack, I know you're supposed to act like you've been there before, but we've never been in Vanity Fair.
Check out our Instagram at TBOY to see the Vanity Fair article.
In the meantime, Jack and I got a fantastic show for you. 3 stories for today. Jack, what do we got?
For our first story, Kim Kardashian Skims just celebrated the WNBA season tip-off with a splashy new photo shoot.
Because Skims knows where Victoria's Secret doesn't want to play.
For our second story, the White House just quadrupled tariffs on EVs, solar panels, and chips from China.
Because made in China doesn't really mean what you think it does anymore.
And our third and final story, get this, Pizza Hut is launching a hamburger.
So what are we gonna do, Jack?
We're going back to 30 years ago when McDonald's launched a pizza.
Pizza Hut's launching burgers, McDonald's launching pizzas, the world's upside down, we're upside up, and what is going on, Jack?
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
Lovely mix. Love the mix today, Jack.
We're whipping over to Utah, the home of skiing, Mormons, and the Great Salty Lakes.
The home of Sweets, Sundance, and Steve Young's left arm.
But Utah's newest import may be its biggest import yet.
Because Utah is about to get its first ever professional hockey team.
Here's the news. The Arizona Coyotes of the NHL are moving north to Salt Lake City.
Moving to Salt Lake City, so Utah is about to get enough body checks to make Brigham Young blush.
Now, we should point out about our Utah listeners. They're the most grateful fan base in the country in Utah.
Jack and I jumped in T-Boy style, and what do we discover, man?
Utah only has one Big 4 professional sports team. It's the Utah Jazz.
But what else did we discover, man?
They love the Utah Jazz so much in Utah, they have sold out 300 straight home games.
So the new Utah NHL hockey team is going to be greeted in Salt Lake City kind of like a second child.
But here's the surprise. The new hockey team's name.
There is no name.
There is no name yet. The owners can't decide what to call the team, so they're letting their fans choose what the mascot is.
Yeah, what we're saying, Yetis, is that Utah just launched the biggest crowdsourcing event in history.
You can choose the name of the new Utah NHL team.
This is the biggest decision for Utah since they chose to join the Union back in 1897.
It's the biggest decision for Utah since Alta forbid snowboarders. Yeah, we went there.
Now, the team is presenting fans with 20 different options that you can choose from.
Yeah, you can vote. Now, most of the options are snow-related.
Like the Utah Ice, or the Utah Blizzards, or the Salt Lake City Glacier.
Other options you can vote for are ski-related.
Yeah, like Utah Black Diamonds, the Utah Mountaineers, the Salt Lake City Powder.
Now, we'd vote for the Utah Saltines if it were an option.
But there is one option that happens to be very, very, very related to this podcast.
The clear favorite, Yetis, is clear. It's the Utah Yetis.
One of the options for the name of this new Utah hockey team is the Utah Yetis.
Fans are going to vote. And if they become the Utah Yetis, we're going to DM the owners about making the team colors Slammin' Salmon.
Jack, if people vote and the name of the team is the Utah Yetis, we are flying to Salt Lake City the very next day.
100%. We're going to record a podcast from the ice. Okay? Or at least we're going to try to.
So, besties, we'll leave a link in this episode description for you to vote on the Utah Yetis.
Whoever wins, we're going to pop some champagne.
Or, if you're in Utah, pop some Pepsi.
Here we go, Yetis. Here we go.
Boom, boom. Jack, let's hit our 3 stories, baby.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in the dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. TBOY City on your list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, Kim Kardashian Skims. They're making their biggest move yet, and that move is the WNBA.
Because Skims shapewear is borrowing a lesson from Newtonian physics.
All right, Jack, to kick things off, got to ask you a question here. What do you get when Lululemon and Victoria's Secret have a baby?
Apparently, Skims.
Skims, because Skims just conquered another corner of American culture, the basketball court.
Kim Kardashian shapewear and clothing brand Skims just launched a big marketing campaign featuring the WNBA's top stars.
Jack, let's whip out the roster. We got Kelsey Plum, Candace Parker, Cameron Brink, all just posed wearing two things only at the season tip-off, and what were they?
They were wearing Skims underwear and they were holding basketballs.
Yetis, you know what? Honestly, this kind of looks like ESPN's The Body Issue.
But instead, this was sprinkled with nude-colored Skims shapewear.
And Yetis, we're not talking some kind of Victoria's Secret Angel boardwalk walk runway over here, are we, Jack?
We're talking about Olympic gold-winning championship athletes.
Step up to the podium, and congratulations.
So Skims is actually the official shapewear brand of the WNBA as of this season. So they launched this marketing campaign just in time for tip-off.
But Yetis, here's what Jack and I found fascinating about this story. In order to understand how Skims got to become so big so fast, we need to discuss Newtonian physics.
Because Kim Kardashian has her own gravitational force.
And gravity is the most powerful force in marketing, baby.
Yetis, Skims launched in 2019 to fill the vacuum left by Victoria's Secret's downfall.
Jack and I called it the Victoria Void. Basically, Victoria's Secret was pushing push-up bras in a bralette world, and it didn't work out.
Now, Skims is a private company, so we don't have their financials. But here's what we know about Skims as of last year.
Skims has raised $300 million. They did $750 million in revenue last year, and they're valued at a cool $4 billion.
And just 5 years after founding the company, Skims has become the number 13 most searched fashion brand in the world, according to List Index.
Forever 20 wahoo, it's all about Skims right now.
And Skims did it with Kim Kardashian, the most marketable person on the planet.
But Jack, if we're going to explain how Skims did this with Kim Kardashian, it feels like we need to whip out the old physics textbooks.
Objects with marketing mass attract other objects of marketing mass.
Yetis, that is Sir Isaac Newton's 12th law of marketing right there. Jack, could you repeat it for the audience, please?
Objects with marketing mass attract other objects with marketing mass. It's gravity.
Yeah, it's gravity, inertia, centrifugal force, all that good stuff.
I think it's just gravity, actually.
Okay, it's just gravity because Kim Kardashian's cool cachet has pulled stars from every corner of culture to collab with her on her Skims brand.
Skims has done collabs with musicians, with sports stars, with podcasters, with movie stars, and yes, also with lingerie supermodels.
And it's all thanks to that gravitational pull of one single creator at the source of it all.
Kim Kardashian. That's how Skims became the $4 billion thongopoly in just 5 years after launching.
Thongopoly gets us every time. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Skims?
There's more value in being different than being better.
Yetis, for decades, Victoria's Secret was number one in the underwear market because they focused on the bedroom.
Then Spanx came around and they focused on social activities.
But Skims is doing something different for underwear than either of those two companies. And what is that, Jack?
They're connecting undies with everything else.
For example, Alex Cooper, the podcaster, got a Skims shoot to celebrate her wedding.
Lana Del Rey, Cardi B, and SZA all got Skims marketing shoots to focus on their music.
And even athletes from the NBA and the NFL got a Skims shoot focused on sports. And now Skims is going where Victoria's Secret and Spanx never did, the WNBA.
Because when you only focus to be better, there's plenty of competition.
But when you focus to be different, there isn't. For our second story, President Biden just effectively banned Chinese cars by quadrupling the tariffs on all Chinese cars.
The bigger news here, made in China isn't what you think it is anymore.
No, it is not. But this news is big. So Jack, why don't we just kick off with the big news?
President Biden just quadrupled tariffs on Chinese cars from 25% to 100%.
I'm sorry, Jack. I already got to pause the pot on you for a second. You might be thinking, Yetis, what Chinese cars exactly? Because you can't think of any Chinese car brands.
And that's a good point, because China doesn't sell cars in America yet. Besties, earlier this year, we covered BYD's Seagull, a car that American car makers are terrified of because it's $10,000, it's electric, and it's made in China.
And just last week, Zeekr, a new electric car brand, went public on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's also made in China.
And finally, NIO. They plan to sell their luxury electric cars in the United States next year, and you guessed it, they're made in China.
The Yetis, in 5 years, check your chassis. That thing was probably going to be made and designed in Beijing.
Except it might not, because of the news yesterday from the White House.
Yetis, this huge tariff move from Biden effectively bans any of the cars that we just mentioned from hitting the roads in the United States.
Because if China sells a car for $10,000, Americans will actually have to pay $20,000 for it.
Right, because $10,000 you'll pay is for the car price, but then another $10,000 you'll pay is to cover the tariff on that Chinese-made car.
It's effectively 100% tax on things we import from China.
Oh, plus, the news didn't stop there with this effective electric car ban from China, did it, Jack?
The White House also announced they're tripling tariffs on electric car batteries and doubling tariffs on chips and solar panels coming from China.
But Yetis, we know what you're thinking. What went into this huge decision of these huge tariffs?
We think it was half driven by politics and half driven by economics.
Half politics and half economics, and here's why. First, let's talk about the politics, Jack.
Donald Trump's tough on China trade war strategy has been very popular, so Joe Biden seems to be adopting it.
Most Americans want China tough talk these days, so both presidential candidates are doing some tough China tough talk.
But the economic part of this story is really interesting.
Yeah, because American companies struggle to compete with Chinese companies for two very particular reasons.
The first reason is that Chinese workers will work for much lower pay. And that's actually fair game when it comes to global trade.
But what's not fair game is the government subsidies that Chinese companies receive.
Yetis, how does the electric car, the BYD Seagull, how does it cost just $10,000?
Because the government's probably covering half the cost.
China has used that subsidy strategy to dominate industries of strategic importance, and they've been doing it for decades.
General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Tesla, they could go out of business if they're forced to compete with China's cars who have that unfair advantage.
That's the economic reason for these tariffs.
But Yetis, there's also another reason why Jack and I wanted to cover this news. And that reason happens to be a sticker on a whole bunch of products in your home. So Jack, what's the takeaway for all our buddies who are everyone in America?
Made in China isn't cheap anymore.
Yetis, phase one of China's economic rise was driven by low-quality products.
Anything cheap and made of plastic was probably made in China.
Phase two of China's economic rise was high-quality products, but designed in the West.
Just about every iPhone ever made was designed in California, but made in China.
But phase three of what China's entering today is something entirely new.
High-quality products and also designed in China.
Because Yetis, from Huawei smartphones to Xiaomi laptops to BYD's $10,000 electric cars,
Chinese designed and Chinese made products are now undeniably high quality.
So besties, America, we've played a key role in China's economic rise. But now we kind of face an uncomfortable reality.
Because made in China isn't cheap anymore.
For our third and final story, Pizza Hut just made the most surprising product launch of the year. Pizza Hut is making burgers.
To understand Pizza Hut burgers, we're looking at a similar idea from 30 years ago.
And what was that, Jack?
McDonald's pizza.
But Yetis, Jack and I want to set the scene for you because fast food is slowing down right now.
Starbucks, KFC, McDonald's, their sales are all slowing as low-income Americans are feeling the budget squeeze.
And a big victim of the fast food sales slowdown happens to be Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut sales fell by 6% last quarter.
So Yetis, Pizza Hut just had its worst quarter since the pineapple pizza. Jack, what is Pizza Hut's solution?
It's the opposite of pizza. Their solution is hamburgers.
Yeah, Pizza Hut just announced the cheeseburger melt at Pizza Hut, a Parmesan-crusted thin crust melt folded and loaded with beef.
Picture a burger melt, but with a bunch of pizza ingredients mixed inside there along with the beef.
Jack, somewhere in Naples, Italy right now, Leonardo da Vinci is like rolling over in a grave.
But still, Pizza Hut is stepping out of their comfort zone. You gotta be impressed. Pizza Hut's making a burger?
Yeah, this is like an econ major taking a poetry class. Jack, this is like Krispy Kreme launching a salad.
True. That is what this is like.
Plus, Pizza Hut just unveiled the most aggressive advertising strategy we've ever seen.
Pizza Hut is sending cars through rival restaurants' drive-thrus to announce to the customers there that Pizza Hut has a burger.
Yetis, if you're at a Burger King right now, you may see a Pizza Hut car roll through the drive-thru with a sign that says, "Want a better burger? Come over to Pizza Hut."
It's like a diss track, but from a fast food restaurant to another fast food restaurant.
Feels like Kendrick Lamar is going to get in on this, Jack. But Yetis, here's what Jack and I found fascinating about this story, and here's why we wanted to cover it.
Pizza Hut's shocking burger launch has a wild precedent from 30 years ago.
Because back in the 1980s, before we were born, just like Pizza Hut is launching burgers, McDonald's launched a pizza.
30 years ago, the McPizza was a real product that was launched. It's like the reverse of the Pizza Hut burger.
This feels like we've stepped into some kind of time vortex, Jack, because back in 1989, McDonald's was facing more competition, higher prices, slowing sales, just like Pizza Hut today.
So in 1989, to kickstart sales again, McDonald's created the McPizza.
Now, Jack, can you jump in TBOY style to describe the McPizza for us? Because probably none of us have ever seen
It
it.
looked like what you'd think it looked like. A thick 10-inch pizza crust that was very dense and had so much cheese and toppings on top.
This was like so thick you had to cut it with a steak knife.
The carbs were extra, but the revenues weren't.
It's kind of like a Sparrow slice, if you remember Sparrows, Jack.
I thought it was pronounced Sbarro.
Potato, tomato, Sparrow. But Yetis, like Jack was saying, this McPizza launched, and the sales, how did they look, Jack?
They did not look good. This was one of the first ever McFailures.
Yeah, the McPizza turned into a McFailure.
So it's been gone since the year 2000.
Although, Jack, there is one McDonald's location out of all 30,000 that happens to still sell the McPizza. And do you know where it is?
Disney World?
Did you just guess that? It's Orlando. It's Orlando. Oh, man. Everything fun is happening in Orlando. So, Jack, what can the Pizza Hut burger learn from the McDonald's pizza about getting out of its comfort zone? I can take a bite of our takeaway. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Pizza the Hut?
Process can eat the product.
Yetis, in general, we all tend to focus on the final product, the end, the user-consumed ultimate finale of the product.
But in reality, the most make or break part of a product can be the process.
Yeah, the process. And that is what killed the McDonald's McPizza.
According to New York Times reporting, the reason the McPizza was killed, it just didn't bake fast enough.
It wasn't the flavor. It wasn't that it was off-brand for McDonald's. The McDonald's McPizza simply couldn't be made in a fast enough speed for fast food McDonald's.
It just took too long, and McDonald's customers were annoyed.
Well, clearly, 30 years later, Pizza Hut noticed. Pizza Hut learned the lesson that process can eat the product.
Pizza Hut's burger actually uses a thin pizza crust as the burger buns, so they kept to their process.
It's easier and faster for Pizza Hut to make burgers since it's made with the same ingredients as pizza.
If Pizza Hut tried to make a burger like McDonald's does, then that new cooking process could have doomed it.
And that's the lesson that McPizza's failure has taught us. Process can eat the product. Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for Ceviche Wednesday?
Skims won the opening day of the WNBA season with a star-powered brand collab.
Because there's more value in being different than being better.
For our second story, President Biden just quadrupled tariffs on Chinese-made cars from 25% to 100%.
And that reflects an uncomfortable reality for America. Made in China ain't cheap anymore.
And our third and final story is Pizza Hut. They launched a burger, but it's cooked more like a pizza.
Pizza Hut is taking a 30-year lesson from the McPizza. Process can eat the product.
Are we going to eat this product?
If we go to Orlando, yes, we are, Jack.
Let's make that part of our process for tomorrow's pod.
Hey, Ronald, extra pineapple.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, one day after OpenAI's big artificial intelligence announcement, Google held their own AI announcement day.
Starting next week, you're going to see major changes when you Google something on Google.com.
Next week, when you start Googling things to Google, instead of a long list of links that we usually see, instead, we're going to see an AI overview at the top.
So first, you're going to see AI's attempt at answering your question. Then you're going to see some paid ads, and then you'll see the long list of links that you know and love, or maybe don't love, from Google search.
And second, Meta is reportedly shutting down Workplace, their office communication software.
It was part of Meta's push for the metaverse. You could wear a headset to virtually collaborate with your colleagues instead of going into the office.
But like many of Zuck's original ideas since Facebook, this one failed.
Yeah, Workplace, It's not getting zucked by anybody.
No, it ain't. And finally, meme stock mania continued for a second day. GameStop jumped another 60% higher yesterday.
GameStop stock popped. AMC stock jumped yesterday. It feels like January 2021 again.
And AMC took advantage by selling $250 million of brand new stock at those really high inflated prices.
But remember, Yetis, this is a FOMO rally. And FOMO can quickly become NOMO. Now, time for the best fact yet. This one sent in by a whole bunch of besties who had a correction for us, Jack. This week, we covered the Chevy Malibu. We covered that GM was killing their final Chevrolet sedan.
We did a story this week on the death of the sedan in America.
The American sedan, it's going from an endangered species to an extinct species.
But a few of you pointed out that General Motors still makes a few sedans. In fact, they make them under the Cadillac brand.
It's true. Cadillac still makes luxury sedans from $35,000 at the bottom to $95,000 on the high end.
So while the sedan isn't extinct like the Dodo, it's kind of in more of that, I don't want to say polar bear area, but you know what I'm getting at, Jack.
Still, for GM's Buick, GMC, and Chevrolet brands, starting next year, you're only going to have trucks, SUVs, and the Corvette.
Yetis, you look fantastic out there. And if you think that Utah's new hockey team should be called the Yetis, we want to hear it.
We want you to vote. We left a link in the episode description so that we can sort of own an NHL team together.
We kind of feel like partial owners here, even though no one will legally acknowledge this.
We couldn't find a notary, but it's okay. You're our notary.
And if you've got Vanity Fair magazine, remember, act like you've been there before. Except if you haven't been there before.
They quoted us twice!
Oh, and by the way, Yetis, if you're working at Skims, hit us up at TBOY Pod for a collab. Really.
Skims hasn't done business news yet.
Podcasters, we need shapewear too. And before we go, a happy 40-year work anniversary to Fritz Baldwin in Houston, Texas. He walks in every day, radiates positivity, and everyone loves working with him.
Bon voyage to Jenna Marshall, who's headed to Tokyo and Bali with her family for a great trip.
And congratulations to Jonathan Young on the AI Kickstarter. Keep that campaign rolling, baby.
And congratulations to Jay Shuang in Taipei, Taiwan, who just graduated with a master's degree from NYU.
And Jay Zhang and Cassie Zhao in Portland, Oregon have got an anniversary. They met while hiking on the Oregon coast, and that is just beautiful.
And happy birthday to the food packaging master over at Target, Casey Dandy Luck.
And Jack, how about our buddy Alberto Alvarez, who created an S-Corp, has a birthday, and is on a 1-month gym streak all right now today.
Happy 34th birthday to Erica Bierbauer in Orlando, Florida.
The mother of two is celebrating with the fam.
This is Jack. I own stock of Victoria's Secret, and Nick owns stock of Lululemon.